Hello, Dave Moore here with PITC, and today we're going to be going over the testing procedure for an RPBA. The device that we're going to be testing today is a Watts 919 QT 2-inch. The first thing that we do when we start our test is we're going to flush our test cocks to get rid of any debris or dirt that's settled in that over the year. Once we've flushed our test cocks, we're going to take our high hose and connect it to test cock number 2. The first test of an RP is testing the differential across check valve 1 or our spring tension across check valve 1. On an RP we have a minimum spring tension of 5 psi, so we must maintain above 5 pounds during this test for 2 minutes. We're first going to pressurize our gauge. Once we've pressurized and bled our gauge, we're going to isolate our device, and we're going to open up slowly test cock number 3, establishing that pressure differential across check 1. We're now holding a pressure differential of 7.6 psi, well above our 5 pound minimum. As long as we held for 2 minutes constant here, we would record that as a pass and move on to the next part of our test. The next part of our test of an RP is seeing when our relief is going to dump. We do this by slowly opening the needle valve on the low side of our valve on our gauge and observing when our relief opens up. Our relief must open up before 2 psi. And there our relief's opened. Our relief opened at about 2.8 psi, so that would also be recorded as a pass. We're then going to open our bypass all the way so that our relief exercises fully. We're then going to close our needle valve. We're going to close our test cocks on our device and move on to the next part of our test. The next part of our test, we take our high hose and connect it to test cock number 3. In this part of our test, we're checking our check valve number 2 in forward or our pressure differential across check 2. Our check 2 has a minimum pressure differential of 1 psi that has to be maintained for 2 minutes. We're first going to pressurize our device. We're going to pressurize our gauge. We're going to bleed any air out of our gauge. Once we've bled our gauge, we're going to isolate our device and we're going to slowly open test cock number 4, establishing that pressure differential across check valve number 2. Now wait for the water to stop running out of test cock number 4. And then we're going to read our pressure. Our pressure is sitting at 1.4 psi. That's above our minimum pressure of 1 pound. So as long as this held constant for 2 minutes, that would be recorded as a pass and we'd move on to the next part of our test. The last part of testing an RP, we move our high hose and we take it from test cock 3 to test cock number 4. And on this part of the test, we test check valve number 2 against back pressure. Isolate our test cocks. We're going to re-establish pressure in our device. We're going to pressurize and bleed our gauge. Once we've bled our gauge, we're going to close our needle valve off. We're going to isolate our device. And we're going to open up test cock number 3. Now I've opened up test cock number 3. We've established our pressure differential, but our pressure differential is too high of a value, so we're just going to reduce it to a readable value. We're going to record for 2 minutes. As long as my pressure stays constant, this is recorded as a pass. We're going to close our test cocks. remove our high hose from test cock number 4, and put our device back into service.